Hi everyone, today I'm going to be going through the Leaving Cert exam 2019 Maths Paper 2 higher level. As most of these videos that I'm going to put up for Honours Leaving Cert, I'm probably going to skip through a lot of the easier calculations, but I'm going to try to explain everything so it's very clear on what's going on, but I will probably skip over the easier computations. Okay, so with that, I'm going to get started. Okay, so then question 1. We are told a class consists of 12 boys and 8 girls. 2 students are selected at random from the class. What is the probability that 2 students selected will be a boy and a girl in any order? So you're essentially looking for the probability that you'll be told you picked boy, girl, and the probability that it would be a girl, boy, because you're told in any order. And the probability is dependent. So if you take one away, it's going to affect the next selection. So 2 students are selected at random from the class. What is the probability 2 students selected will be a boy and a girl in the other? So the first one is going to be boy, girl. And that's going to be 12 divided by 20 multiplied by, girls now is 8 divided by 19. Plus, it's going to be 8 divided by 20 because it's a girl, and then it's going to be multiplied by 12 divided by 19, and that is going to give you 96 plus 96 over 380, which is going to be 192 divided by 380, and that is your answer. So yeah, so it's just a case of knowing what to do and multiplying out accordingly. So 4 students are selected one at a time at random from the class. What is the probability the first 3 students selected will be boys and the 4th will be a girl? So the probability the first student selected being a boy is 12 divided by 20. The next possibility for a boy is 11 divided by 19. Then it's going to be 10 divided by 18. And then it's going to be 8 divided by 17. Multiplied, multiplied, multiplied. And that's going to be your answer. And the answer is 10560 divided by 116,280. And that's fine for an answer. You could break it down to percentage. You're going to get something like 9%. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't ask it for anything particular. So an examination paper is made up of 2 sections. Section A consisting of 7 questions, and section B consisting of 8 questions. So we've section A and section B. Now, the paper consists of the following instruction. From section A, you must answer 1 question and any 3 other questions. So you have 7 questions, so you have to answer 1 and 3 of 6. From section B, you must also answer any 4 questions. So in this one, you have answer any 4 of 8 questions. Find out how many different combinations of questions may be answered if candidate follows that instruction. So it's basically going to be 1 of 1, and then multiplied by 6 of 3, multiplied by 8 of 4. And the way to do these, this is going to be NCR. So it's basically going to be NCR 6 and 3, and you just need to know how to do that in your calculator. If you don't know how to do it in the calculator, you can of course just do this. It'll be 6 divided by 3 plus 6 minus 3, and that essentially will give you the answer. But subbing it in for your calculator is going to be a lot easier, and that is going to give you a total answer of 1,400. Yeah, so hopefully that bit's clear. Again, I would be very au fait with knowing how to do your NCR calculations in your calculator. So question 2 then. The line P, this is our line P, makes an intercept at the x-axis at A is 0 and on the y-axis at 0b, where a, b do not equal to 0. Show that the equation of P can be written as x over A plus y over b is equal to 1. So the first thing, I'm trying to look for the equation of a line, and it's going to be y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. Now, I can pick either of these as my coordinates, so I'm just going to use this one. But I do need to find m. So m is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's going to be, I'll use this, so it's going to be b minus 0, 0 minus a. So my slope is minus b, a. So I'm going to pick this coordinate, so it's going to be y minus 0 is equal to minus b over a, x minus a. Now, I'm going to multiply the whole line by a. So it's going to be ay is equal to minus b times x plus ba. And I'm trying to get it in the form of that. So I'm going to bring my x across. So it's going to be bx plus ay is equal to ba. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the whole line by ba. So that is going to give me b over x divided by ba plus ay divided by ba equals ba divided by ba. That is going to go to 1, and that's going to get rid of these, and this is going to get rid of these. So I have x over a plus y over b is equal to 1, and that is equal to that, so I'm good. All right, hopefully that makes sense. I mean, again, it's just finding the equation of a line, finding the slope and subbing them in. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The line L, so this is a new line, has a slope m. So we have a line L and slope is m. And contains the point a, 6, and 0. So write the equation of the line L in terms of m. So again, we have y minus, that's going to be x and y, so that's going to be 0, is equal to mx minus 6. So y is equal to mx minus 6m. And I could say y is equal to mx plus c. C is equal to minus 6m. Yeah, any of those are fine. Write the equation of the line L in terms of m, that would be fine. Okay, the line L, which is this one, cuts the line 4x plus 3y equals 25 at P. So P, we are not told yet. Okay, so find the coordinates of P in terms of M. All right. Now, we know that this line is 4x plus 3y equals 25, and it's cutting this line at P. So it cuts the line L at P. So there's going to be a relationship between the two. Now, I could say this is equal to y equals mx minus 6m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in my value of y for that. So it's going to be 4x plus 3 times mx minus 6m is equal to 25. So that's going to leave me with 4x plus 3mx minus 18m is equal to 25. And I'm going to get everything in terms of x now. So it's going to be x times 4 plus 3m is equal to 25 plus 18m. And then x is going to be 25 plus 18m divided by 4 plus 3m. So now I've got x, and yeah, and it looks like it can't really be broken down any further. So now I'm going to find y, because I'm trying to find the coordinate. And I know it's in fractions, so this does look like it makes sense. Now, if this is x, I'm going to sub it back into this equation. Y is going to be equal to m times 25 minus or plus 18m over 4 plus 3m minus 6m. So that's going to be y is equal to 25m plus 18m squared all over 4 plus 3m. And I'm going to extend that. And I'm going to say minus 6m, 4 plus 3m. That's going to turn into 25m plus 18m squared minus 24m. I'm going to run out of space. Minus 16m squared. Or sorry, minus 18m squared. Divided by 4 plus 3m. Now that is going to cancel with that. 25 minus 24 is just going to be 1. So it's going to be m is equal to 4 plus 3m. So that in its simplest term won't go in anymore. So that's my y coordinate. That's my x coordinate. So just rewriting them. So my coordinate is 25 plus 18m divided by 4 plus 3m. And my other the other part of my coordinate is m over 4 plus 3m. And that's that. Give each coordinate as a fraction. Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah, I mean, this is just basically a line question. Hopefully you know the rules. But yeah, that's how you would do that one. So on to the next. So question 3, we're told the point minus 2k is on the circle x minus 2 to be squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 65. So if this point is on this circle, I can just sub it in. So it's going to be minus 2 to be squared plus y is k, so it's going to be k minus 3 to be squared is equal to 65. So that's minus 4 to be squared, it'll be 16 plus k squared minus 6k plus 9 is equal to 65. So then it's going to be 16 plus 9 is 25, minus 65 is minus 40, k squared and minus 6k is equal to 0. So that's going to be k, that's going to be 10 and 4 plus and minus 0. K is equal to minus 4, k is equal to 10. And that's your answer. So part B then, the circle S is in the first quadrant. So this is in the first quadrant. It touches both the x-axis and the y-axis. So it's going to touch it here and it's going to touch it here. And if that happens, we have a radius. The line 3t minus 4y plus c is equal to 0 as a tangent. So this is 3x minus 4y plus 6, but it's also a tangent, so it's going to go back here. And that's going to be the radius. Now, find the equation of S. So we need to find the equation of this circle. So I'm just going to go to my maths tables. And I'm going to go to my circles piece. So we have the equation of a circle which has a center of minus g minus f. So I'm going to use that equation. So it's going to be x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c is equal to 0. Now, that's going to give me a center of minus g minus f. But because it's this and this, I can just easily say minus g minus f. Or sorry, minus g minus g. Now, that means that this point is minus g minus g. So this length must be minus g, and this length must be minus g. And if these are length of minus g, the length of this radius is going to be minus g. Now, that's helpful because I'm going to use the perpendicular distance equation to find a value for g. So the perpendicular distance is going to be 3x minus 4y plus 6 all over the square root of 3 squared plus minus 4 to be squared. And that is going to be 5. 3x minus 4y plus 6. And that's equal to my perpendicular distance, which is minus g. So subbing back in x and y, we get minus g for both of them. So it's going to be 3 minus 3g plus 4g plus 6 is equal to minus 5g. So that's going to be plus g plus 6 minus 5g. So I'm going to get g plus 6 equals minus 5g. Bring that across, the minus. So it's going to be minus 6 is equal to 6g. G is equal to minus 1. Now, if I had a center of minus g minus 1, my center is going to be 1 and 1. And my radius is going to be 1. So just using my other equation for a circle, x minus 1 to be squared plus y minus 1 to be squared is equal to 1. And that is the equation of my circle, and that is equal to S. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so that's what you're doing. So question 4 then, show that cos 2 theta is equal to 1 minus sine squared theta. These come up all the time, so it's very important that you're able to do them and identify them. Yeah, so cosine 2 theta, I'm going to go to my maths tables, and I'm going to go to my trigonometry. So this is basically the same as cosine 2 theta. It's cosine A plus B is equal to that. So it's cosine A cosine B minus sine A sine B. So I'm going to start with that. And it's going to be cosine A plus B is equal to cosine A cosine B minus sine A sine B. But cosine 2A, which is just same angle, is going to be cosine squared A minus sine squared A. And this bit, we're going to say 1 is equal to sine squared A plus cosine squared A, which then, obviously, I can say cosine squared A is equal to 1 minus sine squared A. And if I replace this with this, I get cosine 2A is equal to 1 minus sine squared A minus sine squared A, which itself becomes 1 minus 2 sine squared A. And then you've effectively got it proved at that point. But if you're unsure, remember that you can go back to your maths tables and you see this, sine squared A is equal to 1/2 1 minus cosine 2A. So if you look at this, just a sine squared A, so sine squared A is equal to 1/2 1 minus cosine 2A. And they're going to multiply the whole line by 2. So it's going to be 2 sine squared A is equal to 1 minus cosine 2A. Therefore, if I bring that across and change the signs, it's going to be cosine 2A is equal to 1 minus 2 sine squared A. And that is the same as that. So everything is proved. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, find the cosine of the acute angle between two diagonals of a cube. Okay, so you're trying to find this. So if you think about it, if I look at it from the side, as in this way, I'm going to see a box and a perfect cross. If I look at it from the top, I'm also going to see the same thing. But in this 3D variant, I can see that this point is going from this top down to the complete opposite diagonal corner. So hopefully that makes sense. And what you're trying to do is find out the angle in between those two crosses. So because it's a box, all sides should be the same length. So that can be X and that can be X. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the length of this. So it's going to be this line. I'm just going to call it H for now. So it's going to be H squared is equal to, that's X. So X squared plus X squared, which is therefore 2X squared. And if I change that to just a H, so it's H is equal to the square root of 2X squared, which is the square root of 2 times X. So now what I've done is I've found this length from the top of the same side to here. So this length. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the length of this, which is the diagonal from both sides. So if you think about it, what I now have is this, the one on the top, and I'm looking for this one. Now this length is the square root of 2 times X. This length is X, and this is a right angle. So again, I'm going to use hypothesis or the Pythagoras rule. So it's going to be, I'll call it M this time. So it's going to be M squared is equal to the square root of 2 times X to be squared plus X squared. So M is going to be equal to 2 times X squared plus X squared. That should be M squared. Therefore, that's going to become M squared is equal to 3 times X squared, or M is equal to the square root of 3 times X. Okay, so hopefully you're all following me so far. So now I have the length of this, and that is equal to square root of 3 times X. So if that's the square root of 3 times X, half of it, where the lines intersect, is going to be a half of the square root of 3 times X. And with that in mind, I now know this length, and I know this length because it's just X. So I'm effectively looking for the angle in between. So this is the square root of 3 divided by 2 times X. This is the square root of 3 divided by 2 times X. And this is X, and I need this angle. Okay. And because I have the 3 sides and I just need the angle, I'm going to use the cosine rule. So it's going to be the X squared is equal to the square root of 3 over 2 times X to be squared plus, same thing, minus 2, the square root of 3 divided by 2, times X, multiplied by the same thing again, and cosine of angle. We'll just call it A. So I'll just call that A. Now, I'm going to get everything on one side. I'll bring this across and bring the, so it's going to be 2, the square root of 3 over 2x, square root of 3 over 2x, cosine A is equal to, that is going to now become a minus, so it's going to be, this to be squared is going to be 3x squared over 4 plus 3x squared over 4, and then minus x squared. Yeah, so then it's going to be cosine A is equal to, that is going to be 6 over 4x squared minus x squared. It's going to be 2 over 4x squared. And this is going to be the square root of 3 multiplied by the square root of 3 is 3, multiplied by 2 is going to be 6, divided by 4x squared. So it's going to be 6 divided by 4x squared. That is going to go, so it's going to be 2 divided by 4, multiplied by 4 divided by 6. That is 8 over 24, which is a third. So A is equal to the cos inverse of a third. And that's going to be 70.52 degrees. It says to find the cosine, so you could just say cos A is equal to 0.33, and that should be fine too. Yeah, so that should be correct. Okay, hopefully that was clear. A little bit of visualization required for sure. But yeah, pretty nice question. Okay, on to the next one. So question 5 then. Construct and label the orthocenter of the triangle ABC in the diagram below and show any construction lines or arcs clearly. So for these, you essentially just need to go perpendicular to that and through the point A. So I don't have set squares. You obviously use them in your exam, but I'm just going to pick the first one. So it's perpendicular to that. And my point will be somewhere along this line. And now to get this one, I extend this line. And I need to find a point 90 degrees to that. So it should be here. And it needs to join up to where this cross. So this will be, and again, if I wanted to find the one from here, I'd extend this line. I would go 90 degrees, so around here, and down. All 3 points should meet. And that's your orthocenter. Yeah, I suppose you just need to know that. Okay, it just says construct and label. Yeah, nothing else to it. Okay, in the diagram below, O is the center of the circle. So that's the center of the circle. AB is a diameter. So they're both going from the center, okay, of S. BE is a tangent. So this is going to be 90 degrees. CD is a chord. And CD is a half AB. So if that's a half AB, that's R, that's R, that's R. This is R, and this is R, because these are all radii. Find with justification the angle BEA. Now, if this is R, this is R, this is R, these are all isosceles triangles. So we can say this is the same as this, is the same as this. So very quickly, the triangle OCD is equilateral. Okay, now if that's equilateral, this, and this must also be an equilateral triangle, because this is 60 degrees. This and this will have to be the same. And remember, these will be all the same. So essentially you've got 3 equilateral triangles if you join this up. Yeah, so if these angles are all from equilateral triangles, every angle must be 60 degrees. So if that's 60, so the angle ABD is equal to 30 degrees, or 90 degrees rather. And the angle BAE is 60, is equal to 60. And the triangles of triangle must equal 180. Therefore, AEB, the angle, is equal to 30 degrees. So that is 30 degrees. Yeah, so that's that. Hopefully that makes sense. On to the next one. So question 6. Two independent events, F and X, are represented in the Venn diagram shown below. So they're independent, so what happened in F doesn't matter for S to happen. So the PF not an S is equal to a quarter. So the chance of F happening but not S is a quarter. The chance of F and N happening is 1/5. The chance of S not in F, so the chance of this happening but not F, is equal to X. And P, F union S not together, all is Y. So that whole thing should be 1 because it's in a box. Okay, so find the value of X and find the value of Y. So the chance of F happening, probability of F, is equal to a quarter multiplied by a fifth, which is equal to 5 plus 4, so it's going to be 9/20. So the chance of F happening is 9/20. The chance of S happening is equal to X plus 1/5. Okay. Now PF intersection S, so PF intersection S is equal to P of F multiplied by P of S. Now we already know that's a fifth, so that's a fifth. This is on its own, so we can call that 9/20 by PS, because I'm going to get a value for PS in this, and then I'm going to sub it back in for this and see what I get an answer. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9/20, so it's going to be 1/5 divided by 9/20, which is the same as 1/5 multiplied by 20/9, which is equal to 20/45. So that is equal to P of S. Now, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say 20 divided by 45 is equal to X plus 1/5. So it's going to be, bring that across. So it's going to be 20 divided by 45 minus 9 divided by 45 is equal to X. That's just going to be 11/45. So X is 11/45. Yeah, I mean, this has been relatively easy the way I've done it so far, but I suppose the most important thing is to make sure that you know your equations for independent as well as dependent events. And then once you've solved that, it's basically just a case of algebra for this. So yeah. And now we need to find the value of Y also. So the whole thing is going to be 1 is equal to a quarter plus a fifth plus 11/45 plus Y. Plus Y. Or Y is equal to 1 minus a quarter minus a fifth minus 11/45. And that whole thing is going to come to Y is equal to 0.3055. And that's your answer for Y. Yeah, so you found a value for X, you found a value for Y. Yeah, okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, in a club, there are German, Irish, and Spanish children only. So we know that there's a club and there's 3 sets of children, or 1 set of children, but there are 3 nationalities. There are 10 Spanish children, okay? There are twice as many Irish children as German children, okay? So we have a group This is Spain, this is German, and this is Irish. This is equal to 10. I'm going, let's equal to x, and this can be equal to 2x. They are all in a group waiting to get on a swing. Okay, so they're in a group waiting to get on a swing. One child will be selected at random to go first and will not rejoin the group. Okay, so once the child is chosen, they cannot go again. Then a second child will be selected at random to go next. The probability that the first child selected will be German and the second child selected will not be German is 1/6. So the chance of our result is this. How many children are in the club? Okay, so we have two events happening. So the first, and the answer is going to be equal to a sixth. So it's going to be 1/6 is equal to the probability of a German child, which is x divided by these three things together. So 10 plus 3x multiplied by the probability that a non-German child will get selected. So that's 2x plus 10 divided by, and this time it's going to be 3x plus 9. Now, we can say 9 here because even though we're selecting, we selected a German child the first time, we reduced the number by 9 because, you know, it's a whole number. So it's going to be whatever that whole number is minus 1. So even that doesn't, just make sure it doesn't seem like we're taking a Spanish child away. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, so working that out a bit, that's going to be 2x squared plus 10x, and it's going to be 10 times, so that's going to be 30x. 10 by 9 is 90. And then 3x by 3x is going to be plus 9x squared. And 3x by 9 is going to be 27. 27x. So just rewriting that quick. 9x squared plus 57x plus 90. So cross multiplying to a sixth. So it's going to become 12x squared plus 60x is equal to 9x squared plus 57x plus 90. Bringing everything across, 12x squared minus 9x squared plus 60x minus 57x minus 90. It's going to be 3x squared plus 3x minus 90 is equal to 0, which is going to become x squared plus x minus 30 is equal to 0. And that's going to be 6 and 5. So it's going to be x minus 5, x plus 6. That's going to be x is equal to 5, x is equal to minus 6. My minus 6 could not be my answer. So that's going to be 10, 5, and 10. So my answer is 25 students. Because how many students are in the club? 25 students. So that's my answer. Okay, on to the next one. Hopefully that makes sense. So question 7. We're told a cattle feeding trough of uniform cross section and 2.5 length is shown in figure 1. So this is the cross section and it's 2.5 meters in length. The front of the trough segment ABC is shown in figure 2. So that's showing you what it looks like. The front of the trough is a segment of a circle of radius 90 centimeters. The height of the trough is 30 centimeters. That's 30. OA, which is O to A, is equal to O to C, which is equal to O to B. So they're a circle, a bit of a circle, it's 90 centimeters in length. So straight away, I can see that this is 30. And if this is 90, this must be 60. We know that this is a right angle, so this must be a right angle. Yeah, so that's what I can see so far. So find AD, A to D. Now, I have, this is 90, this is 60, and this is a right angle. So I'm just going to use Pythagoras' theorem. So it's going to be 90 squared plus is equal to 60 squared plus x squared. So that's going to be 8100 minus 3600. So I bring that across is equal to x squared. So that's 4500. The square root is equal to x. Now for this, 100 is going to go in pretty easy. So it's going to be the square root of 100 multiplied by the square root of 45. That's going to be 10. And then 45, 9 goes in pretty easy. So it's going to be 9 times 5. And that's going to be 10 times 3 times the square root of 5. And square root of 5 can't be broken down. So it's 30 square root of 5. So AD is equal to 30 square root 5 centimeters. And we've been told to find it in this. So that's what I'm going to give it. Find DOA. So DOA. So I need to find this angle. Give your answer in radians. So once after I found the angle, I'm going to need to convert it back to radians. So now I have, this is 90, this is 60, this is 90, and this is 30 over the square root of 5. And I'm looking for this angle. So 90 over sine of 90, which is just 1, is equal to 30 square root of 5 divided by sine of, and I'm just going to call this alpha. So that's going to become 90 sine alpha is equal to 30 square root of 5. That by that is just going to be a third. So sine alpha is equal to square root of 5 over 3. Alpha is equal to sine inverse of the square root of 5 over 3. And that is going to equal 48.189 degrees. Now, that's in degrees, but as I say, I need it in radians and to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 48.2 multiplied by pi over 180. And that's going to equal to 0.84 to 2 decimal places, radians. Okay, so that's that bit done. Yeah, hopefully it should be pretty clear. Find the area of the segment ABC. So we need to find ABC. So I'm going to use my maths tables and find the area of a sector and then take away that triangle. So going to my maths tables, the area of a disk is, sorry, the area of a sector in radians. It's important that you use radians. If it was degrees, I just need to convert my number back. So it would be 48.2 degrees, but I have it in radians, so I'm going to use this. So I'm looking for the area of a sector, a half r squared theta. Now, so it's going to be a half r squared, which is 90 squared, and then theta. But that's going to be equal to a half 90 squared multiplied by 0.84 by 2, because it's this. It's the double the angle. So hopefully you get that. And that's going to be equal to 6812.58 centimeters squared. Now, I need to take it away from this area. So it's going to be half the base multiplied by the perpendicular height. So it's half of, it's 30 over the square root of 5 for 1, and it's going to be 60 over the square root of 5, or multiplied by the square root of 5 for 2 of them, times 60. And that's going to be equal to 4024.922 cm squared. I'm going to take the 2 of these away, and it's going to be 28, something close to that. But I know that my answer is to be in meters squared. Now, to go to meters squared, it's 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters is going to give me 10,000 centimeters squared, which is the same as 1 meter by 1 meter is equal to 1 meter squared. So I'm going to get a value of 0.28 meters squared, corrected 2 decimal places. So that is going to be my answer. I hope that bit's clear. Okay, find the volume of the trough. Give your answer in meters cubed, corrected 2 decimal places. Well, the area of a cylinder is pi r squared multiplied by the height. So the area of this is just going to be 0.28 multiplied by the length or the height, 2.5. So the area by the length. And that is going to be 0.696, or corrected 2 decimal places, is going to be 0.7 meters cubed. And all my numbers are in meters, so that's 0.28, that's 2.5. So we're good there. So this is our answer. So hopefully that bit is clear also. Okay, next bit. Okay, so question B, a sand timer for games is shown in the diagram. Each half of the timer consists of a hemisphere, a cylinder of height 3.5, and a cone of height 1.5. All of the parts have a radius of 1.25 centimeters. So the radius of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So the half must be 2/3 pi r cubed. The volume of this is going to be pi r squared h, and the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. Now, the upper half of the timer is full of sand. Find the volume in sand of the upper half of the timer. So I'm going to use these. The V total is equal to V cylinder plus V semi-sphere plus V cone. So then the cone, or the cylinder, the cylinder. So it's going to be pi r squared h, so it's pi 1.25 to be squared multiplied by h is 3.5. Plus the semi-sphere is going to be 2/3 over pi 1.25 to be squared plus 1/3, look at the cone now, pi 1.25 to be squared, and the height is 1.5. And that altogether is going to come to 23.73 centimeters squared. Cubed, sorry. Yeah, so that's the volume of the upper half. Centimeters cubed, corrected 2 decimal places, so we're good. Sand flows from the top half of the cylinder into the bottom part, so it's going down like this. As it flows, the top surface in both parts remain level. So that's level, fine. At a certain time, 98% sand has flowed from into the bottom half of the cylinder, the timer. So now this is 98% and this is 2%. Find H, the height of the remaining sand in the conical part at the top of the timer. Give your answer in centimeters, corrected 2 decimal places. So it's worth, first of all, figuring out what the volume of this is. So it's going to be 2% of this. So 23.73 multiplied by 0.02 is going to be 0.4746 centimeters cubed. So I'll just make sure it's for over here. But that, yeah, so this is for the volume of this. So volume is equal to 0.4746 centimeters cubed. Now, we want to find something of that. So that's going to be equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. But we don't really know what r squared or h are. But we can see that when this is 1.5, it's going down to h. When this is 1.25, it's going down to r. So the ratios should be the same. So if this is 1.5 divided by 1.25, that's going to be h over r. Now, I'm trying to figure out what h is. So h is going to be 1.5 times r is equal to 1.25 h. So r now is going to be 1.25 h divided by 1.5, which is going to be 5h over 6. So now I found something that, starting to make more sense. So sub that back in. You're going to get a third pi r squared. So it's going to be 25h squared over 36h. So that's going to be 0.474 is equal to 25h cubed pi divided by 108. And then subbing down algebraically, you're going to be left with h cubed is equal to 51.13 divided by 25 over pi. H is equal to 0.652. H is equal to 0.874 centimeters. And you were working with centimeters the whole way down, so there's no, converting to be done. And that's your answer. Hopefully that bit is clear. Okay, on to the next bit. So question 8. These questions can tend to be some of the shorter ones. If you're able to answer them quickly, it's obviously a probability question. I can see that very immediately. Yeah, so they can be quick to answer, but I suppose they can also be quite confusing and difficult if you don't know what to do. So yeah, I suppose it's very important that you study them. A motoring magazine collected data on cars on a particular stretch of road. Certain details on 800 roads were recorded, or 800 cars. So we have a survey, there was 800 cars involved. That's what we know so far. The ages of the 800 cars were recorded. So 174 of them were new, i.e. less than 1 year old. Find the 95% confidence interval for the proportion of cars, of new cars on this road. Give your answer correct to 4 significant figures. So to find the 95% confidence interval, I'm sure you've seen it's equal to 1.96, but just so you know where that's coming from, if you go to the maths tables, and we'll scroll down to our Z table, and if it's 95%, I'm going to be looking for 2.5% on one time and 2.5% on another. And you're basically trying to find out that 95% fall in within a certain area, because you're saying 2.5% would fall here and 2.5% would fall here. So that's going to be 0.975, and that's going to be 1.96. So this is where I'm getting that. Okay. Next thing, I need to use my confidence interval equation. So it's going to be the probability of 174 divided by 800 plus or minus my Z, which is 1.96. And then usually when you do this, it's the standard deviation over the square root of n. But here we know the variance, or all we can solve for is the variance. So it's actually going to be all over the square n. So you go from this to this. So your equation usually would be standard deviation over square root of n, but we're having to solve in for that. So it's going to be 174 divided by 800, so the probability, and then the probability of it not happening. So it's 626 over 800. So that is my top bit, and then divided by my number, which is 800. So this bit is all going to become 0.00021, and I'm going to end up with 174 divided by 800 minus 1.96 multiplied by the square root of 0.00021 p, and then 174 divided by 800 plus 1.96 multiplied by the square root of 0.002, sorry, 0.021. And that's going to leave me with 0.1889 on this side, the probability here. So I'm finding the in-between probabilities. Sorry, that's 2, 4, 6, 1. And that's going to leave me with 18.89% P, and then 24.61%. So again, it's important that you know your calculations, that you can read through what's being asked and answer accordingly. So the next bit, the data on the speeds of these 800 vehicles is normally distributed with an average speed of 87.3 kilometers per hour, and a standard deviation of 12 kilometers per hour. What proportion of the cars on this road would you expect to traveling at over 95 kilometers per hour? So we're going to try and find a Z value, and we're going to be trying to find basically the area that are in this. So our N is 800. Our average is going to be 87.3. And our standard deviation is 12. And our Z is equal to X minus X bar over the standard deviation. Now, in order to find the standard deviation, I know that this X is going to be 95. So X is going to be 95. So Z is going to be 95 minus 87.3 divided by 12. And that's going to give me 0.641. So I need to find in my Z tables 0.641. And 0.641, 0.7389. So it's 0.7389. So this is going to be P at Z, 0.641, we'll say, is equal to 0.7389. And then we're trying to find the area of this bit, so it's 1 minus it. And that's going to be equal to 26.11%. So 26.11% are going over 95 kilometers per hour. So hopefully that bit's clear. The driver of the car was told that 70% of all speeds recorded were higher than his speed. So 70% of cars that were recorded were going faster than him. Find the speed at which the car was recorded. So we'd have to find now what 70% of all speeds were. So we need to go back to our tables and find what 70% is equal to. So 70% is basically 0.525, because it's in between 6,985 and 0.7. So 0.525. So 70% is going to give us a Z of 0.525. Now, we already know that our average is 87.3. And our N is still 800. And our sigma, or our standard deviation, is still 12. So from the Z equation, I'm trying to find the number that was higher. So it's going to be 0.525 is going to be X minus 87.3 divided by 12. And then cross multiply, I'm going to get X is equal to minus 81.06. And that's not going to make sense. So it's going to be X is equal to 81.06 kilometers per hour. So find the speed at which this driver was recorded. So he was going around this speed. And that makes a bit of sense because the average speed was 87.3. So he was in the lower. All right. A road safety program was carried out in the areas using poster signs and radio slots. After the program, the motoring magazine recorded speeds of 100 passing cars. So 100 passing cars passed after this safety campaign, and the magazine carried out a hypothesis test at the 5% level of significance to determine whether the average speed had changed. They're trying to figure out whether the speed had changed. So in order for the null hypothesis, we have to say H0, P is equal to 0. So that's if nothing has changed, or sorry, if the speed has changed. And if nothing had changed, we would say H1, P does not equal to 0. So nothing's changed. Okay, now we know that P is equal to 0.024, but our significance level is 0.05. So if P is less than the significance level, which it is, we accept the null hypothesis. So, so the speed has changed. So yeah. That's your answer. Okay, and then the magazine found that the average speed of this sample was lower than the previously established average speed of 87.3. So we know that the speed has changed. Now, when you're looking for the speed has changed, you look for the Z statistic, but it's slightly different for this one. So it's going to be Z is equal to X minus X bar over, and rather than it just being over the standard deviation, it's standard deviation divided by the square root of n. Now this X bar is still 87.3. We know that P is 0.024. The sigma, or the standard deviation, is going to be equal to 12. And our n is going to be equal to 100. So I have that so far. So find the average speed of the cars in this sample correct to 1 decimal place. So we know that this is 0.024. That's our p value. So that's going to be equal to 1 minus p x a. So it's a two-tail test though, so we need to multiply this by 2. So dividing both sides by 2, you're going to get 0.012 is equal to 1 minus this. Bring that across, you're going to get 0.988 is equal to that. And now what I need to do with this is go back to my maths tables and find the Z value. So I'm looking for 0.988. And that's roughly here, so 2.26. So my value is going to be 2.26 is equal to Z. Now, I know this now, 2.26. I know I'm looking for the average speed, X, minus 87.3 divided by 12, which itself is divided by the square root of 100. And subbing all that in, you're going to end up with X is equal to 84.58 kilometers per hour. Average speed correct to 1, that's fine. And that's your answer. Okay. Yeah, so these questions can be easy enough if you know what needs to be done. But I suppose they can be quite confusing and can catch some people out, but I advise you to study as much as possible. Okay, on to the next one. So question 9, the diagram below shows a triangular patch of ground SGH, where SH is equal to 58 meters, GH is equal to 30 meters, and GHS is 68 degrees. So this is 68 degrees, this is 30, this is 58, and this is my triangle. The circle is a helicopter pad. So this is a helicopter pad. It is an incircle of SGH and has center P. So straight away, this is going to be a tangent, and this is going to be a point on the tangent. So that's going to be equal to R, and that's going to be equal to R. And I'm also should know that these will bisect. So if that's 68, that's going to be 34 and 34. And I'm sure I'll have to figure the rest as we go forward. Find SG, give your answer in meters correct to 1 decimal place. So I'm trying to find this length. Now, I know this is 30, I know this is 58, and I have the angle, so I'm going to use my cosine rule. So it's going to be a squared is equal to 30 squared plus 58 squared minus 2 times 30 squared, 30 multiplied by 58, multiplied by my cosine of 68. That's all going to become 2960.369. And A, therefore, is going to be 54.4 meters. So that is 54.4. Now, find HSG. So H to S to G. So we need to find this angle. Okay, give your answer in degrees correct to 2 decimal places. Well, now, we know this angle and we know this length. So we also know this length, so we might as well find this angle. So we use the sine rule. So it's going to be 54.4 divided by sine of 68 is equal to 30 divided by the sine, and I'll just call it alpha. So it's going to be 30 sine 68 is equal to alpha, then it's going to be sine inverse divided by 54.4. And that is very quickly going to be equal to 30.75 degrees. The degrees, 2 decimal places, so we're good. So this is your answer. All right, hopefully that bit was clear. Now, find the area of SGH. So this to this to this. So usually you use half the base by the perpendicular height, but I don't know any height. So I'm just going to use my sine rule for triangle. So it's going to be AB sine C multiplied by half. So it's 30 multiplied by 58 multiplied by sine of 68. And that is going to give me an answer of 806.64 meters squared. Meters squared, correct, 2 decimal places, and this is my answer. Okay, pretty gentle enough so far. Find the area of HSP. So HSP. Okay, in terms of R, so they've made this pretty easy for us, where R is the radius of the helicopter pad. So we know that this is R. So it's going to be half the base multiplied by the perpendicular height, which is, in that case, R. So it's half of 58 multiplied by R, which is equal to 29 R meter squared. Yeah, that's it. Show the area of SGH. So SGH in terms of R can be written as 71.2 R. Okay, so we effectively need to find the other 2 triangles. So that's going to be one of them. This is going to be another, and this one we already found. So it's going to be a half of 30 times R, which is 15R, and it's going to be a half of 54.4, which is 27.2 R, and 29R plus 15R plus 27.2 R does equal 71.2 R meter squared. So we are good. Find the value of R. Well, we already know what the full area is. So it's 806 is equal to 71.2 R. So R is equal to 806 divided by 71.2, And that's going to be equal to 11.3 meters. Yeah, I mean, this question is pretty easy, I suppose, as long as you think about what's being asked. You know, you have a circle inscribed, so these are going to be perpendicular, and then these are going to bisect. So yeah, as long as you know your circle or your in-circle things, I suppose it should be pretty easy. On to the next bit then. Okay, so part E is a vertical pole at the point S. So this is a vertical pole up. The angle of elevation to the top of the top of the pole from the point P. So from the point P, it's going up 14 degrees. So that's 14 degrees. Find the height of the pole. Okay, so we need to figure out what that height is. So first of all, I'm going to figure out what this length is. Now, I know that this is 34 because half of it is going to be 34. And this was 30.75, so this angle is going to be 15 degrees, 15.375 degrees. And if these are 34 and 15.375, this is going to be 130.625 degrees. Now, with that, I'm able to find this length by the sine rule. So it's going to be 58 over the sine of 130.625 is equal to the length I don't know, so I'll just call it question mark, divided by the sine of 34. So cross multiplying, you're going to end up with question mark is equal to 42.73 meters. So this length is now going to be 42.73, or this is going to be 42.73. Now, I know this is 90. I know this is 14. So this angle must be 76. So I'm just going to use sine rule again. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call this TS. TS is fine. So TS over sine of 14 is equal to 42.73 divided by the sine of 76. And that is going to give you TS is equal to 10.7 meters to 1 decimal place. So that length is 10.7 meters. And yeah, so that's this question paper done. Hopefully you found this very informative. Again, I'll be posting many videos onto my Facebook page at More Learning Limited. So if you subscribe, you'll be sure to get access to them. And thank you, and good luck in your studies.